What is up everyone, it is Sacred Saiyan here, welcoming you back to another video. So today we're going to be starting the long-awaited series, What If Sacred Saiyan Was in Dragon Ball. I'm so glad I finally get to do this series, and if you end up liking today's video, then please consider subscribing. It is free and you can always unsubscribe later. Also, if you want to join my Discord server, then there will be a link to that in the description of the video. You can talk to me and my community, grind for roles, hang out, and if you put your art in the art text channel and 10 people react to it with a star, it will get featured at the end of a video. With all of that out of the way, let's get into today's episode of What If Sacred Saiyan Was in Dragon Ball? At the dawn of time, the beginning of the multiverse, there was a prophecy very reminiscent of the legendary Super Saiyan. The prophecy of the Sacred Saiyan. One singular being will be born with every form of ki and the potential of every being from every timeline multiplied by each other. The potential of every Frieza, every Saiyan, every hybrid Saiyan, every legendary Super Saiyan, every god of destruction, every angel, every Grand Priest, and every Zeno, just to list a few. Every time a new being exists in a timeline, their potential will get added to the Sacred Saiyans. This being, after being born, will be unmatched by any opponent. However, in an attempt to make themselves the most pure being possible, they create an evil which is just as strong, if not stronger than themselves. This is the story of that Saiyan. This is the story of the Sacred Saiyan. Deep in the far reaches of space, there's a planet known as Planet Vegeta, home to the mighty warrior race called Saiyans. This is the planet where the Sacred Saiyan is finally born. His power is already incomprehensible at birth, but because of all of the different types of godly ki he has, his power is undetectable, and thus, the Saiyans believe him to have a power level of 0. Frieza would eventually decide to kill all the Saiyans with permission from Lord Beerus, and Bardock and Gine would put their son in a space pod and send them to Earth in order to save him. But when the pod is on its way to Earth, it is stopped by the Grand Priest who has just appeared. He sensed the child as soon as it was born, and has been waiting for the perfect moment to go to him. The Grand Priest then takes the child and spacepod to Zeno's palace, where Zeno has been waiting. The spacepod then opens, and the child crawls out. Zeno smiles, saying he finally has someone to play with, but the Grand Priest tells Zeno that this child can play with him, but he is also much more important than they first expected. Sensing him up close, the Grand Priest realises the prophecy has finally came true. The Sacred Saiyan was born. Every god from every timeline knew about the prophecy of the Sacred Saiyan, and they all hoped the Sacred Saiyan would be born in their timeline. However, it seems it was this timeline that he was born in. The Grand Priest shoots a clove beam at the child, giving him a blue gi. The Grand Priest then says they will call the Sacred Saiyan Sacred for short. The Grand Priest would raise Sacred for 17 years. Sacred would also play with Zeno from time to time during this period. The Grand Priest would help Sacred control his power, and even in base form alone, the Grand Priest is only a fraction of Sacred's power. Sacred also learned and mastered Ultra Instinct during this time, along with every godly technique the Grand Priest knows, and even the erasure technique of Zeno. He was also able to achieve Super Saiyan God very quickly, but the Grand Priest wasn't able to teach Goku any of the regular Saiyan transformations. He had already removed Sacred's tail, and he has also told Sacred about the prophecy of the Sacred Saiyan. The Grand Priest now decides that it is time Sacred returns to Universe 7, and he heads to where his parents originally intended, Earth. Hopefully there he will be able to train under other masters and learn new techniques. Sacred agrees, and using instantaneous movement, he teleports to Earth in Universe 7. Once arriving, he realises the world is in deep peril, and he flies to the strongest person he can sense. He arrives in front of King Piccolo, the Demon King being confused who Sacred is, and telling him to bow. Sacred smirks, moving so fast King Piccolo can't even see him, and he punches a hole right through the Demon King's chest. King Piccolo spits out an egg, and he then falls to the ground, lifeless. Kami then appears, thanking Sacred and asking who he is and how he is so strong. Don't forget, Kami can sense God Ki, and even though he can't sense Sacred's full power, the power he can sense is still incomprehensible compared to his own. Sacred introduces himself and asks Kami if the Namekian he just killed caused all the destruction on Earth. Kami is confused, not knowing what a Namekian is, but he says yes anyway. Sacred then asks if he can train under Kami, learning every technique he has, and Kami would agree, and would take Sacred to the lookout. Kami would first create a new Shenron and reverse everything King Piccolo did to the Earth, reviving everyone and restoring all the damage. After a couple of months, Kami teaches Sacred everything he knows, and somehow, for some strange reason, Sacred gains the ability to create his own set of Dragon Balls. Sacred assumes it is something to do with him being the Sacred Saiyan, but he isn't entirely certain. Sacred would then ask Kami if there is any other masters on Earth he can train under and learn techniques from. And Kami can think of one person, Master Roshi. Kami tells Sacred where Master Roshi lives, and then Sacred uses instantaneous movement to teleport to Kami House. Master Roshi and Krillin are shocked when Sacred appears out of nowhere, and Sacred introduces himself. He is the one who defeated Demon King Piccolo. The Turtle Hermit and his student thank Sacred for doing that, as he was the one who killed them, but they question why Sacred is here. Sacred simply says he is here to learn every technique Master Roshi has to offer, and Master Roshi would gladly accept this request. A couple of months would pass, and it is time for the martial arts tournament. Sacred has mastered all of Master Roshi's techniques, and he is going to compete in the tournament to see if there are any strong Earthlings. Sacred has to infinitely suppress himself in every battle, and he quickly realises no Earthling is worthy of his time. However, Sacred would meet Chi-Chi in this tournament, and he would end up marrying her afterwards. We now skip a couple of years into the future. Gohan was born during this time, but since Sacred never meets Grandpa Gohan, he obviously wouldn't give his son that name. He may name his son Bardock since he never hit his head and remembers his father, but we will just call him Gohan in order to not create any confusion. Sacred is training on Kami's lookout when Raditz arrives. Raditz says he is Sacred's brother, and that Sacred needs to come with him to help take over a planet. Sacred remembers the Grand Priest did mention he had a brother, so he does believe Raditz, however he states that he won't use his power to take over planets. Raditz says he only found him because a Namekian on the planet down below this place pointed him in the right direction, so he clearly can't be strong enough to defy him. Sacred and Kami look at each other, thinking they know who Raditz was referring to, and then Raditz attempts to scan Sacred's power. Nothing comes up on Raditz's scouter, and he begins to laugh, saying Kakarot wasn't even worth their time, and he then shoots a double Sunday at Sacred. Neither Sacred or Sacred's gear damaged in the slightest. Not even a scratch, not even a speck of dust. Raditz is confused, and then Sacred appears in front of Raditz, breaking his scouter instantly. Raditz gulps, apologising to Sacred, and then Sacred simply says he will spare Raditz because he is his brother, but if Raditz even thinks about doing something evil, he will kill him. Don't forget, Sacred would have learnt the ability to read minds. Raditz would agree, and he would tell Sacred that Nappa and Vegeta will probably be on their way to Earth, and they will arrive in a year's time to avenge him, since they most likely think he is now dead. Sacred says he will easily kill those two once they arrive, but until then, Raditz will first show him every technique he has, since Sacred can learn any technique instantly after only seeing it once, and then Sacred will train up both Raditz and his son, Gohan. So after the last video, I know a lot of you are wondering if Gohan has more potential than Sacred. Well, the answer to that is both yes and no. Gohan has more potential than Sacred before he was born, but as soon as Gohan was born, his potential would get added to Sacred's, meaning Sacred would have more potential than Gohan after he was born. With that cleared up, let's continue with the story. Sacred takes the role of mentor and master for both his brother Raditz and his son Gohan. He trains them both as he wants them to be powerful in their own right, and also because Sacred knows the responsibility he has as a Sacred Saiyan. He will use his power and knowledge to benefit not only his timeline, but any timeline that needs it. And if he can have allies who are strong enough to help other timelines as well, then that means they will be able to help a lot more people. We now skip to when the Saiyans arrive. Vegeta and Nappa first blow up a city, and then their scouters detect a power level of 5000. They fly over to the person with the power level of 5000, and they end up in a wasteland, coming face to face with Sacred, Gohan, and Raditz. Vegeta is outraged at Raditz's betrayal, but Sacred interrupts him, telling Vegeta to listen. They will help them defeat Frieza if Vegeta and Nappa both renounce their evil ways and never harm an innocent person again. Vegeta laughs, saying for low-class scum, he is very arrogant. Sacred may be stronger than Raditz, but even with Raditz having a power level of 5000 now, that is still nothing compared to himself. Sacred looks to Raditz and tells him to demonstrate his full power. Raditz does so, powering up to full power in his base form. Training with Sacred would have naturally gave Raditz God Ki, so not only can he transform into Super Saiyan God, but he also has a God-infused base. The scouters of Vegeta and Nappa instantly explode, and the two Saiyans are terrified of the power of Raditz. Sacred says they have one final chance. They can either die like Frieza will, or they can join them. Vegeta is visibly angry, and even though his pride fights against it, he reluctantly agrees to join Sacred. Nappa, being Vegeta's underling, would follow Vegeta and agree to join Sacred as well. Sacred smiles, and he then searches for Frieza's energy throughout the universe. Sacred finds out that Frieza is on his way to Namek, and he can guess why that is. Obviously Sacred would know Namek has Dragon Balls, but he is surprised Frieza knows as well. Sacred tells the others where Frieza is heading, and he says as soon as Frieza lands on Namek, he will teleport them all to him. In the meantime, Sacred will train them all in preparation for their battle with Frieza. Vegeta scoffs at the idea of being trained by someone of the lower class, but then Sacred remarks that he thought Vegeta would want to be the one to kill Frieza. However, it seems like he wants the glory to be given to someone else. Vegeta snaps back, saying he will be the one to kill Frieza. Frieza will regret looking down upon the Prince of all Saiyans. We now skip to Frieza arriving on Namek. As soon as he exits his ship, Sacred, along with Gohan, Raditz, Vegeta and Nappa appear. Nappa shoots 3 ki blasts, instantly killing both Zarbon and Dodoria, and also destroying Frieza's ship. Frieza chuckles, saying the monkeys arrived just like the purple man told him. The Saiyans are visibly confused, and then Frieza points at Sacred, saying he is the one he wants to fight. Ever since that monkey Raditz arrived on Earth, he was watching through his scouter, and when he saw a powerful Saiyan with an undetectable power level, he was terrified, because he remembered the only other being he saw with an undetectable power level, Lord Beerus. So then he realised that stupid prophecy came true. That stupid Saiyan legend. Sacred was either the Super Saiyan, or even worse, he was the Super Saiyan God. This was concerning to him at first. However, he has trained for over a year now, ever since the day Raditz arrived on Earth, and he is fully confident in his newfound power. Sacred laughs, saying for a moment he thought Frieza was actually smart. He thought Frieza actually figured out what he truly was, but Frieza thinks he is only a mere Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan God. Sacred tells Vegeta he can have his fun with Frieza, and Vegeta gladly accepts this offer. The Saiyan Prince rushes at Frieza, trying to land a punch on his face, but Frieza catches his arm with his tail, saying Vegeta isn't worth his time, and with a swift backhand, he knocks Vegeta out. Raditz steps up next, and Sacred tells Gohan to watch how Raditz fights. This could be a good lesson for Gohan. Raditz says he's going to deal with this scum himself, and Frieza says he would like to see him try. However, before Frieza can say another word, Raditz already lands a powerful kick on his jaw, sending the tyrant flying. Frieza gets annoyed, rushing towards Raditz, and they begin to trade blows and clash fists. Even with over a year of training, Frieza is only slightly stronger than Raditz, and since Raditz has the advantage in skill, it evens the odds. Then, out of nowhere, Frieza begins to scream in agony, and he falls to the ground. A mysterious purple figure then appears in the sky, and begins to collapse sarcastically. Sacred asks them who they are, and they introduce themselves as Fu. Fu then says what an honour it is to meet the Sacred Saiyan. However, that isn't why he is here. Frieza came here to use the Dragon Balls to become immortal, seeing as he still had doubts about his power, and clearly those doubts weren't misguided. He was barely stronger than Raditz base to base. He could obviously tell both Frieza and Raditz were hiding a powerful form, and since they weren't transforming themselves, he decided he would force them to. Make things more exciting. Raditz says nobody is going to force him to do anything, and Fu laughs, saying if Raditz doesn't transform, then he will die. Fu snaps his fingers, and then Frieza stands up, his eyes now red, and he has a strange purple goo covering a portion of his face. Frieza then transforms into his golden form, and then Fu tells Frieza to kill Raditz. Fu then disappears, and Frieza rushes towards Raditz. Raditz quickly transforming into perfected Super Saiyan God to barely dodge an attack from Frieza. Frieza in his golden form normally would easily be able to overpower Raditz, but not only does the purple goo on Frieza's face leave him completely under Fu's control, but it also makes him significantly stronger. Frieza is about to kill Raditz, but then Sacred stands in front of Frieza, saving Raditz, and he then slaps Frieza into a mountain. Frieza gets back up, and then Sacred says if Frieza's worst fear is a Super Saiyan, then he will show him a Super Saiyan. Sacred powers up, instantly transforming into a Super Saiyan. His hair now spiked up and golden. Sacred then outstretches his hand, using the erasure technique of Zeno, and saying, "Be gone from this timeline." Frieza is completely erased, and then Sacred heals both Raditz and Vegeta. From afar, Fu watches on and states that their new version of their Villainous mode power-up works perfectly. The villain not only gets a substantial power boost, but is also left completely under their control. Towa and Mira will be pleased. Fu then disappears, and we head back to the Saiyans who are now at the Grand Elder Guru's home. The Grand Elder thanks Sacred for saving his planet, and he says in return he can boost Sacred's power significantly by unlocking his potential. Sacred thanks Guru for the offer, however he says he doesn't want it. But he does want to see the Grand Elder unlock someone else's potential, because then after seeing it, he should be able to learn that ability for himself. The Grand Elder then unlocks the potential of Raditz, and Sacred tries to replicate this with Vegeta, and it is a great success. He can give a far greater power boost than the Guru, and now because of this, Vegeta has caught up to Raditz in base form. Sacred thanks the Guru, and he then teleports himself, along with the other Saiyans, back to Earth. We now skip years into the future, and we head to a laboratory inside of the mountains. Inside of this laboratory, we find Dr. Gero finishing his greatest invention, Cell. Dr. Gero has been watching Sacred ever since he arrived on Earth and killed Demon King Piccolo with a single blow. And Gero has had tiny robots following Sacred ever since, and taking the DNA from every warrior Sacred comes across. This would include people like Sacred, Gohan, Raditz, Vegeta, Nappa, Kami, Frieza, and even Fu. Not only would this make an incomprehensibly strong warrior, but it also wouldn't add to Sacred's potential. You may wonder why that is. Well, it is because when Cell was first created, he had no potential. The DNA and potential of the fighters were added to Cell after his creation. You may also wonder where Android 17 and 18 are. Well, Gero decides to never make them. It would be impossible for a regular android to reach Sacred's power, which is why he focused all of his attention on his bio-android Cell. Meaning not only would Cell be released when the androids are in canon, but he would also already have his perfect form, seeing as Cell had Gero's full attention. Cell is released, and Gero welcomes his creation to the world, saying that Cell's prime objective is to kill Sacred. Cell smirks, saying that he will kill Sacred, but on his own terms. Cell then kills Gero, and he flies out of the lab, then blowing it up. On Kami's lookout, Sacred is training the other Saiyans when he senses Cell's immense power. The others sense Cell's energy shortly after, and they all look to Sacred, asking what the plan is. Sacred says nobody here has the power to take this threat down other than himself and Gohan. They will need to go alone. Raditz tries to argue with Sacred, saying that himself, Vegeta and Nappa can help, But then Cell telepathically talks to the fighters, telling Sacred and Gohan to come to their home alone. They don't want him to go have a word with Chi-Chi now, do they? Gohan is furious that Cell just threatened his mother, and he instantly powers up into Super Saiyan 2, and then he flies to his home. Sacred follows shortly after, and then both Sacred and Gohan arrive, coming face to face with Cell. Cell smiles, seeing the two Saiyans arrive, and he greets them, stating that he is Cell, the perfect being, and he is the only being to surpass the Sacred Saiyan. Sacred says that Cell's power is remarkable, but it is nothing compared to his own. Cell laughs, asking if Sacred really thinks he is at full power right now. Cell isn't even using a fraction of his power. Sacred smiles, clicking his knuckles, but then Gohan stands in front of him, saying he will kill Cell himself. Cell smirks, saying that he supposes he could do with a warm-up. He has never tested his power before. The battle between Perfect Cell and Super Saiyan 2 Gohan begins. They seem to be evenly matched at first, but it is pretty obvious Cell isn't even trying. Sacred isn't sure why Gohan isn't using Super Saiyan God or above, but whatever the reason is, it could get him killed. The battle between Cell and Gohan continues, Gohan getting mercilessly beaten. Sacred decides to step in, smacking Cell away, and he tells Gohan to let him handle this. Cell smiles, saying the main event can finally begin. But Sacred says enough games. Cell will die here and now. Cell mockingly asks if Sacred is going to use the same transformation that Gohan did, but Sacred says no. He will use a form unique to himself, stronger than Super Saiyan 2. Sacred begins to power up, first transforming into a Super Saiyan 2, but then he begins to go even further beyond. Though, he isn't transforming into a Super Saiyan 3, he is transforming into a form called Super Saiyan Evolution. Sacred rushes at Cell, and Cell is astonished at Sacred's power. Sacred is far stronger than the drones calculated. Sacred and Cell clash fists and trade blows. Every time Sacred attacks Cell, Cell counters, and any time Cell attacks, Sacred does the same. Cell and Sacred keep exerting more and more power, with their entire timeline shaking with each strike. Cell asks if this is all Sacred can do, but Sacred says he isn't even trying. Cell smirks, saying he hasn't started trying either, however it seems they have an unwanted spectator. Sacred looks into the sky, and he sees Fu there, interrupting a battle once again. Sacred asks Fu what he's doing here, and Fu says he is simply watching the battle of the century. And since Cell does have his own DNA as well, it is interesting to watch. Cell laughs, saying if Fu even thinks for a moment that his DNA adds anything substantial to him whatsoever, then he is sorely mistaken. Fu says he didn't even imply that, but Cell shouldn't disrespect his elders like that. Cell is only a couple hours old after all. Fu then snaps his fingers, and Sacred looks to Cell, but nothing happens. Cell laughs, asking if Fu really thought he could control him. Well, that is just hilarious. If he wants to use that little trick on someone, then he should go find the child of Demon King Piccolo. He is weak enough to be controlled by such puny things. Fu is surprised that Cell could resist his control with such ease, but he regains his composure, and he says fine. He will leave. He thanks Cell for the advice, and he then teleports away. Cell asks Sacred if they should continue their battle, and Sacred agrees, so that is exactly what they do. Sacred and Cell continue their battle for a short time, but then the two warriors decide they end this once and for all. The two power up to their maximum, and they begin to charge Kamehamehas. The two fire their beams and they clash with amazing intensity. Cell at full power is overpowering Sacred in Super Saiyan Evolution, so Sacred knows he will have to transform once again to win the beam struggle. Sacred quickly transformed into Super Saiyan God, and his beam begins to easily overpower Cell's. Sacred's beam then engulfs Cell, seemingly leaving nothing remaining. Sacred powers down to base form, and then Raditz flies over to Sacred. He was watching his battle with Cell from afar. Gohan also walks over to Sacred, and the trio begin to celebrate. However, when their guard is down, Cell re-emerges, and utters the word, Hokage. Raditz begins to scream in pain, and he is erased from existence in front of Sacred and Gohan's eyes. Gohan begins to cry, and Sacred screams no, transforming back into Super Saiyan God and rushing at Cell, trying to land a punch on his face. Cell catches a punch, smirking, and he then smacks Sacred away. It is like Cell said before, he is the only being to surpass the Sacred Saiyan. Cell can't help but grin because of his newfound power, but Sacred, and more notably Gohan, have a completely different reaction. Tears flow down Gohan's face as he screams out of anger. He blames himself for the death of Raditz. If only he wasn't so afraid to go full power against Cell, maybe Raditz would still be alive. Gohan begins to power up, his hair spiking up and turning blue. It is time he ends this battle once and for all. Cell laughed, welcoming the challenge, but before he can say a word, Gohan lands a swift kick to his jaw, sending him flying. He did this to honour Raditz, as that is what Raditz did to Frieza on Namek. Gohan and Cell then rush at each other with intense speeds. Gohan seems to be holding his own at first, but Cell begins to slowly demonstrate his true power, which gives him a clear advantage over Gohan. However, this is when Sacred steps in, also in Super Saiyan Blue, and he begins to back up his son, the pair actually giving Cell a run for his money. Cell begins to struggle fighting the two Saiyans, so using his strategic mind, he decides he will focus all his attacks onto the weaker of the two Saiyans, that being Gohan, so then he won't have to focus on facing two opponents. Unfortunately for Cell, Sacred anticipated this, so Sacred defends Gohan while Gohan attacks Cell. Cell is furious. Even with his new power up, he is somehow losing. He draws all of the power from his reserves and he kicks Gohan away, beginning to have a one-on-one battle with Sacred. This would lead to Sacred jumping back and beginning to power up even further, transforming into Super Saiyan Blue Evolution. Cell is astonished that Sacred is still holding back against him, and now Cell doesn't even stand a chance against Sacred. Cell resorts to drastic measures, beginning his self-destruct sequence. However, unlike in canon, Cell's self-destruction won't just destroy a planet. It will not only destroy an entire timeline, but it will completely erase it. Sacred says he can simply erase Cell before he can explode, but Cell retorts, saying that because of all of the erasure energy already building up inside of him, Sacred attempting that would not only speed up the inevitable, but it would also make the power of the self-destruction even stronger. Sacred reverts to base form, and he turns to a heavily injured Gohan on the ground. Sacred smiles, and he tells Gohan to take care of his mother. Gohan screams no, as Sacred transforms back into Super Saiyan Blue Evolution and creates a barrier around himself and Cell. Cell self-destructs, and Sacred sacrifices himself, containing the destruction inside of the barrier, being erased in the process. In tears, Gohan flies to the lookout, and when he arrives, Vegeta, Nappa and Kami are about to summon Shenron. Gohan falls to his knees, in serious pain, and he tells him there is no point summoning Shenron. Shenron can't revive people who were erased, so they can't revive Raditz or Sacred. Gohan then hears a feminine voice behind him, telling Gohan to cheer up, and instantly Gohan is fully healed. Gohan turns around, and he sees a short purple woman who introduces herself as the Supreme Kai of Time. She then says that there is a way to bring both Raditz and Sacred back. They just need to use the Dragon Balls that Sacred created. Kami butts in, saying that since Sacred is dead, his Dragon Ball should be inactive, but that is when the Supreme Kai of Time tells Kami to not be ridiculous. Sacred was so powerful that even in death, his Dragon Balls are still fully functional. Gohan asks where his Dragon Balls are, and the Supreme Kai of Time then says that is the reason she is here. Unlike the Earth's Dragon Balls, which only get spread out throughout the Earth, the Sacred Balls get spread out throughout different timelines. And luckily, she knows which timelines they are in. The only problem is, they won't be the only people looking for them. Toa and Mira are also in search of the Dragon Balls in order to wish for the Demon Realm to rule over every timeline. They've already gathered 2 of the balls, so in order to revive Sacred and Raditz, they must defeat Toa and Mira. Gohan nods, and he looks to Nappa and Vegeta, telling them to protect the Earth while he is gone, and to tell Chi-Chi everything that is happening, and that he is sorry he can't be there to tell her himself. Gohan and the Supreme Kai of Time then disappear, and they reappear in the Time Nest where Zeno Trunks is awaiting their arrival. Trunks introduces himself, and he says how the Gohan of his timeline was his mentor and was his hero. Trunks is sure Sacred Gohan is just like him. The Supreme Kai of Time interrupts them and says that she's going to look for the timeline with the 4-star Sacred Ball in it. In the meantime, Gohan and Trunks should train with each other. They're going to be partners for quite a while after all, so they might as well get to know each other and see how each other fight. The two Saiyans agree to this, so while the Supreme Kai of Time goes to retrieve the scroll with the first timeline in it, the two Saiyans spar, and it is quickly obvious that Trunks isn't even a speck of dust compared to Gohan. However, Trunks does have far more experience than Gohan, so they will have a good partner dynamic. The Supreme Kai then walks over to Gohan and Trunks, saying it seems the 4-star Sacred Ball is in a timeline where Vegito never defused. Gohan is confused, asking who Vegito is, and Trunks just smiles, telling Gohan he will see. Trunks takes the scroll from the Supreme Kai of Time, and he then tells Gohan to hold on as they are transported into the timeline. They appear in between the Super Saiyan 3 Vegito and Beerus, and they awkwardly fly down to Earth. Vegito is confused, but Beerus guesses the Supreme Kai of Time has something to do with this, so he decides to brush off the interruption of Trunks and Gohan, and he then continues his battle with Vegito. Trunks and Gohan look around for the Sacred Ball, and then Whis walks over to them, holding the ball, and he asks if this is what they are looking for. The two Saiyans nod, and they ask for the ball, with Whis gladly giving it to them. The two Saiyans thank the angel, and they then head back to the time nest with the Sacred Ball. Gohan says he hopes it is that easy to get all of them, but Trunks says that will probably be the only one which is easy to get. Years have passed since the last video ended. Gohan and Trunks have travelled to many timelines trying to find the Sacred Balls, and they have encountered Toa and Mira multiple times. Gohan could have easily killed Toa and Mira on those occasions, but if he did that, they would never know where Toa and Mira have hidden the Sacred Balls which they have. Gohan and Trunks have gathered 4 of the Sacred Balls, while Toa and Mira have retrieved the remaining 3. Gohan and Trunks had to go to timelines where Bardock became a Super Saiyan against Frieza, where Majin Buu was in the Tournament of Power, where Goku became immortal, and a timeline where Goku landed on Namek instead of Earth. But unfortunately, while they were in these timelines, Toa and Mira were in the others, collecting the other Sacred Balls, and now all the Sacred Balls are gathered. The two sides must battle to decide who gets all the Sacred Balls. Gohan and Trunks are in the time nest, trying to figure out where the Master Saiyan came from. The Master Saiyan being a warrior who serves under Toa and Mira. After coming across a Bardock up close from the timeline where he was a Super Saiyan, they know the Master Saiyan is a version of Bardock. Now they just need to figure out why Bardock is working for Toa and Mira. Gohan and Trunks are looking over what is known as the Prime Timeline, the canon Dragon Ball timeline. They are watching Bardock try and fight Frieza, but when Bardock is about to die, they see Toa and Mira take him through a wormhole. Gohan and Trunks quickly travel to this timeline, and they follow Toa and Mira through the wormhole, arriving in an unknown point in time. Toa greets the two Saiyans, laughing as she does. She says it took them long enough to find them, and it seems they fell right into their trap. Now all they need to do is kill Gohan and Trunks here, then they can invade the time nest and claim the remaining Sacred Balls, finally getting their wish. Gohan says they clearly thought of their plan. However, there is one major flaw. Toa looks confused, and then Gohan states, the flaw is, they have to kill him, and they will never be able to do that. Gohan tells Trunks to fight the Master Saiyan, while he takes on Toa and Mira. Trunks agrees, transforming to Super Saiyan 3, and he rushes at the Master Saiyan. Gohan slowly walks towards Toa. Mira tries to rush at Gohan and attack him, but Gohan isn't even fazed by any of his attacks. Gohan then flicks Mira away, and he continues to walk towards Toa. Toa begins to get scared, trying to use her magic on Gohan, but it doesn't affect him in the slightest. They clearly underestimated Gohan. Toa teleports to Mira, saying they have to retreat, but Mira had the better idea. Mira grabs their 3 Sacred Balls, and he also grabs Toa, absorbing Toa and the Sacred Balls. Mira rises, now being powered up immensely. Trunks stands next to Gohan, now being in Super Saiyan God, and the two Saiyans look at each other, smiling, and they both get in their fighting stances. Gohan and Trunks then rush at Mira, in perfect sync as they attack the demon. Trunks' attacks don't damage Mira, so he tries to distract Mira so Gohan can get some powerful hits in. Mira doesn't understand. How is Gohan so powerful when only his base form? Gohan smirks, saying he knew Mira and Toa would try do something like this, which is why he's been training intensely with Trunks, waiting for the day where he can finally kill the pair. Mira says Gohan can't kill him. If he does, he will destroy the sacred balls. But Gohan laughs, saying not necessarily. Gohan and Trunks jump back, Trunks shouting solar flare, blinding Mira. Gohan then raises his arm into the air, and a rainbow-coloured ball of energy appears in his hand. Gohan then shouts Soul Punisher, and he throws a rainbow-coloured ball of ki at Mira. Mira screams in pain, as all the evil in Mira is erased, meaning Mira dies, and the 3 sacred balls Mira absorbed drop to the ground. Gohan and Trunks give each other a high five, and then Gohan grabs the sacred balls. Gohan and Trunks then head back to the time nest and gather all the sacred balls. And then, Trunks asks what the code is to summon Sacred Shenron, but Gohan tells him to allow him to do it. Gohan looks up to the sky, raising his arms, and he says this special phrase, "Subscribe to Sacred Saiyan for free KFC." The time nest shakes, and Sacred Shenron rises. Sacred Shenron states they have 3 wishes, there is no limit to his power. Gohan first wishes to revive his father Sacred Saiyan, and his second wish is to revive his timeline's Raditz. Gohan is thinking of a third wish, but then Sacred appears behind him. As soon as he was revived, he teleported to Gohan. Gohan and Sacred embrace, and Sacred tells Gohan he is so proud of him. He knew his plan would work. Gohan is confused, but then Sacred says he allowed himself to die to Cell. He could have either created the barrier only around Cell, or just turned Ultra Instinct in order to survive his self-destruction. Gohan asks Sacred why he did that, and Sacred says it is because he wanted to let Gohan be his own man, go on his own adventures, make his own friends, and grow stronger in his own way. Sacred says he knows what to use the final wish on. He wants to wish to remove all the evil from himself. Gohan asks why, and Sacred says it is simple. They saw how dangerous someone with their kind of power is when they are evil, Cell being the perfect example. And if he himself turned evil somehow, nobody would be able to stop him. Nobody. And he doesn't want even the slightest chance of that becoming a reality. Gohan says he agrees with Sacred, and that he should wish for that. So that is what Sacred does. Sacred wishes to remove all the evil inside of him. However, the way he worded that wish may cause massive consequences. Sacred looks at Gohan, and he says now that is done, he wants to see how strong Gohan has become. Gohan says very well, powering up into Mastered Ultra Instinct. Sacred is impressed, saying his turn, and Sacred powers up into his version of Mastered Ultra Instinct as well. Back on Earth, in Sacred's timeline, Vegeta and Nappa are training on the lookout when they meet an old friend once again. They welcome Sacred back, and they ask why he has a new gi and why his eyes are red. The figure they are talking to then shoots powerful death beams through the 2 Saiyans, killing them instantly, and he then looks for Kami in order to get rid of the Dragon Balls. Sacred and Gohan have finished their sparring match, and they now both know which one of them is stronger. Sacred says that was fun, but it is time they go and make sure Raditz is doing okay now that he is revived. Gohan agrees, and he asks Trunks if he wants to come with them. Trunks decides it would be nice to see their timeline, so he says sure, and then Sacred, Gohan and Trunks all teleport back to their timeline. Everything seems normal at first, however they sense 2 insane powers at Sacred's home in Mount Paozu. The 3 Saiyans head over to Mount Paozu, and after arriving, they are shocked at who they see. They see Fu, Piccolo Jr., Cell, and someone who looks like Sacred. Sacred asks his lookalike who the hell he is, and they state that since they are the opposite of the Sacred Saiyan, he guesses that makes him the Cursed Saiyan. Sacred is confused, but Cursed simply tells Sacred that he was created when Sacred wished to remove all the evil from himself. He really should have thought about the way he worded that wish. Sacred then asks how Cell is alive, and Cursed can't help but laugh. While Gohan wasted his time searching for the Sacred Balls, Fu was searching for the Super Dragon Balls. He was going to use the wish on them for another purpose, however he was persuaded not to. Fu smirks, saying that's right, him and Cursed are partners now. Sacred, Gohan and Trunks don't stand a chance against them. Cursed chuckles, saying Fu really is a fool. He was never going to work with Fu. He simply used Fu. He used him for the Super Dragon Balls, and he used Fu to learn how Fu controls people. Fu didn't have the power to control someone like Cell. He, on the other hand, well, he could do it with ease. Fu is shocked, and Cursed says, in fact, Fu no longer serves a purpose. Before Fu can say anything, Cursed shoots a death beam through his head, killing him instantly. Gohan asks where Raditz is, and Cursed says Raditz is currently inside of Sacred's home with Chi-Chi, thinking he has the power to protect her. As for the other two Saiyans, Vegeta and Nappa, he killed them earlier. Trunks grips his sword when hearing Vegeta is dead, but Sacred puts his arm in front of Trunks. Sacred tells Gohan to face Cell and Trunks to face Piccolo. He will handle Cursed himself. Cursed smirks, telling Cell and Piccolo that they know what to do. The two sides have a standoff, and then the three separate battles begin. Sacred first tries to face Cursed in base form, however he can't even land a single attack. Cursed would then kick Sacred back, Sacred taking his chance to power up into Super Saiyan evolution. Sacred rushes at Cursed, trying to land a flurry of punches on his evil counterpart, but Cursed simply blocks all the attacks. Not because he can't dodge them, but just to show that he can handle Sacred's attacks. The two warriors fly into the sky, Sacred deciding to transform all the way to Ultra Instinct Omen already. Sacred then attempts to land a kick on Cursed Saiyan's jaw, but Cursed is barely able to dodge. Sacred then tries to land a mock kick on Cursed, but Cursed narrowly dodges every single one of his kicks. Cursed then smacks Sacred into the ground, dealing immense damage. This is the only attack Cursed has thrown, and it has already done far more damage than anything Sacred has done so far. Sacred is on one knee, with his head facing the ground. Cursed floats down in front of Sacred, saying that he is weak, and he is disgusted that he came from a weakling like Sacred. Cursed then tries to punch Sacred once again, however Sacred catches his fist, raising his head and now being in Mastered Ultra Instinct. Cursed smirks, saying this is going to be fun. Cursed powers up to his max power in base form, and then Sacred and Cursed begin to clash fists, now being evenly matched. At the same time, Gohan is in Mastered Ultra Instinct, and he is trading blows with Cell. The last time he faced Cell, Cell had the overwhelming advantage, however this time they are seemingly evenly matched. Gohan taunts Cell, saying he remembers Cell saying he would never be controlled by such puny techniques. However, Cell gives no response, being completely under Cursed Saiyan's control. Cell then kicks Gohan into the sky, then flying up to continue his chain of attacks, but then Gohan shouts Solar Flare, blinding the bio-android. Gohan then lands on the ground, powering up a Kamehameha. Cell regains his eyesight, and he begins to power up a Kamehameha of his own. It is time the two truly find out who is stronger, and they both fire their beams, the two beams clashing with amazing intensity. Both combatants are putting their full power into their beams, however Gohan is losing stamina much faster than Cell because of Ultra Instinct. Their beams are evenly matched right now, but if Gohan doesn't think of something, his stamina will give out, and Cell will win. Luckily for Gohan, Trunks has finished his fight with Piccolo, and he helps Gohan push his Kamehameha. Trunks may not be strong compared to Gohan and Cell, but with Gohan and Cell being at a perfect stalemate, Trunks' small amount of power makes all the difference. Gohan and Trunks both scream full power, and their friendship Kamehameha completely overpowers Cell, killing the bio-android for good this time. Gohan drops out of Ultra Instinct, not having enough stamina to retain the form anymore. Trunks asks Gohan how they are supposed to help Sacred face Cursed Saiyan. Now Gohan can't use Ultra Instinct, but Gohan does have an idea. Does Trunks remember what they learnt from those Metamorians? We head back to the battle between Sacred Saiyan and Cursed Saiyan. The two keep countering each other's attacks. They are at a complete stalemate. Sacred knows that if they keep this up for much longer, he is sure Cursed will just transform and easily overpower him. Sacred needs to go full power before Cursed gets a chance to. Sacred begins to think of how to distract Cursed, so he can transform again. But then, Sacred and Cursed turn, and they see a new warrior has entered the battlefield. Gohanks has arrived, and he is going to show Cursed Saiyan who is boss. Gohanks winks at Sacred, Sacred knowing this is his chance to transform. Gohanks powers up into Super Saiyan God, saying Cursed Saiyan doesn't stand a chance against him now. Cursed laughs, asking if they really think a Super Saiyan God fusion is enough to stop him, even if Gohan was one of the fusees. However, Gohanks says no, smiling as he points behind Cursed, and he says they can beat him though. Cursed turns around, and he has a shocked expression on his face. Sacred is now using a form known as Beyond Ultra Instinct. Cursed regains his composure, saying he supposes it is his turn to transform as well then. Cursed powers up, instantly transforming into corrupted Super Saiyan. Gohan stands beside Sacred, the duo rushing at Cursed with unimaginable speed. The two Saiyans attack Cursed, completely in sync. However, even with this fact, Cursed is still able to block the majority of their attacks. Cursed smacks Gohan away, knocking the fusion out, and he then beats Sacred out of Beyond Ultra Instinct. Sacred is on his knees, seemingly defeated. Cursed Saiyan begins to gloat at his victory, but while he does, Sacred gets a vision of the Grand Priest. Sacred apologizes to the Grand Priest, saying he failed, but the Grand Priest tells Sacred it is okay. Sacred has always thought of others, and he always wanted to live up to the prophecy of the Sacred Saiyan by any means necessary. But now, he needs to focus on himself, because if he doesn't, Gohan will die, Raditz will die, Chi-Chi will die, all of existence will be under the control of Cursed Saiyan, but most importantly, Sacred will die. Sacred needs to let go. He needs to release his true dormant potential, not only using Ultra Instinct in base form like Cursed Saiyan has been, but surpassing that, and he needs to do it now. Sacred stands up, opening his eyes as he finally releases his dormant power. He unlocks every form and technique from every timeline, and he uses Ultra Instinct while in base form. But not just that, Sacred has finally learned to harness all that power to its fullest. Sacred begins to power up, his hair growing and turning blue. At first, this may seem like only Super Saiyan Blue Evolution 3, however this is much more powerful than that. This transformation combines the power of every transformation Sacred has, and since Sacred now has every transformation imaginable, that is quite a lot. Sacred has ascended to a new plane of power. He has finally achieved Sacred Evolution. Cursed is terrified, saying it isn't possible. Cursed then tries to land a flurry of punches on Sacred, but now with a complete role reversal, Sacred dodges every single attack. Cursed shouts this can't be. He is the strongest being. He won't be surpassed by a weakling like Sacred. No, he will ascend as well. He will achieve Cursed Evolution. Now with both Saiyans breaking their limits, it is time they finally end this battle, and they decide who is the strongest being in all of existence. Sacred and Cursed both try to land multiple punches and kicks on each other, but the pair completely mirror each other, so they counter each other's attacks without meaning to. The two polar opposites jump back, and they decide they will end their battle with a final beam struggle. Sacred Saiyan powering up a Sacred Kamehameha, while Cursed Saiyan powers up a Cursed Kamehameha. The two fire their beams with incomprehensible power, and they clash. They were able to contain their power when they were fighting before, but now with a beam struggle that decides the fate of existence itself, they can no longer contain their power. Every second, reality breaks more and more. Neither Saiyan shows any signs of giving up, and there is nobody left to help either of them. Sacred begins to think of what to do, and then he gets a vision of something that happened in the Prime timeline. Tien reflecting a Kamehameha. Sacred watches how Tien did this, and he then slowly breathes in, and then out. Sacred stops firing his Kamehameha, and he instantly replicates what Tien did, and surprisingly, it works. Sacred reflects a Cursed Kamehameha, and Cursed Saiyan disappears. Sacred powers down to base form, completely exhausted. Trunks and Gohan said that was incredible, and Sacred thanks them for their help earlier. Unfortunately though, Trunks had to kill Piccolo, meaning Kami died as well, so they will need to go to Namek to get a new Guardian of Earth, and to revive Vegeta and Nappa. Then, something clicks in Sacred's head. Kami wished to remove all the evil from him, and that created Piccolo. And when Piccolo died, so did Kami. Which means, if he did kill Cursed Saiyan, then he would also be dead. Gohan and Trunks look scared, because that means Cursed Saiyan is still alive. He must have teleported away at the last second. Sacred says he has an idea on how to beat Cursed Saiyan. He doesn't think Cursed will be coming back anytime soon though. He will most likely be preparing, and they need to do the same. Sacred asks if Gohan wants to come with him, but Gohan actually wants to go back to the Time Nest with Trunks. Gohan enjoys being a time patroller, and him and Trunks have become really good friends now. Besides, if Cursed ever shows up again, they will find out. Sacred respects Gohan's decision, and after they get Dende to become the Guardian of Earth, and they revive Nappa and Vegeta, Sacred begins to enact his plan. His plan is to create a team of powerful Gokus that can help him fight Cursed Saiyan. Not only will their power separately help, but their potential will also get added to his after they are created, making himself even stronger. Sacred heads to the Prime Timeline, and he creates his first of multiple branches in history. Sacred heads into this branch, and he sees a pregnant Gine sleeping, even though the sun is still out. Sacred walks up to Gine, and he taps her stomach, giving the unborn Goku God Ki. Sacred then heads back to his timeline, and he will now begin to monitor the first timeline that he created. The timeline where Goku is born with God Ki. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, then make sure to like, comment, and please do subscribe. It is quick and easy to do. With all of that out of the way, comment down below what series you would like to see me do next, and yeah, goodbye guys.